Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet. And today we are going to be talking about Republican Congressional Rep Matt Gaetz. Now, for those of you who have been sleeping under a rock, missed the last 24 hours, let's just say Matt Gaetz has reestablished himself as the true dumpster fire of the Republican Party. If you don't believe me, a visual representation for you. I wish I could say this was exaggerative, but after we read the next two articles, and I show you a couple of video clips, I'm going to let you decide for yourself whether or not Matt Gaetz, his political career, and his legal future are indeed nothing more than a flaming dumpster fire. Here we go. So Tuesday morning started innocently enough with this exclusive scoop that appeared in Axios that said that Matt Gaetz was eyeing early retirement to take a job at Newsmax. Ordinarily, you would find it odd for somebody to have spent that much time and money to get to the position where they're the congressional representative for Florida's 1st District. It's a position with a certain amount of power, combined with his unofficial job as Donald Trump's lapdog. And well, Matt Gaetz apparently had a bright future ahead of him in the Republican Party. So this was surprising. However, if you remember our discussion from yesterday about the interchangeability of media people and politicians in this day and age, not so far-fetched. But this is what it looked like. Representative Matt Gaetz has privately told confidants he's seriously considering not seeking re-election and possibly leaving Congress for an early job at Newsmax. Gaetz is a provocative figure on the right who's attracted attention by being a fierce defender of former President Donald Trump. The Republican also represents a politically potent district in the Florida Panhandle. Gaetz has told some of his allies he's interested in becoming a media personality and floated taking a role at Newsmax. Now, for those of you who might not know what Newsmax is, it's sort of like Fox News's less educated, slightly slower little cousin. In other words, the type of network that would be Matt Gaetz's speed. One of the sources said Gaetz had early conversations with the network about what a position would look like. Many Republicans have turned to the network after Fox News called Arizona early for President Biden. Some critics now say Fox is not conservative enough for their tastes, providing an opening for Newsmax and OANN. Gaetz has previously toyed with the idea of running for higher office. So just like that, out of nowhere, a 38-year-old congressional rep in the prime of his career, who's a rising star, just suddenly says, hey, I think I might quit this gig and go take a job at an obscure conservative cable news network that has fewer viewers than James from the internet's YouTube. Well, a few hours later, this happened, and then that whole first article sort of made sense. Matt Gaetz is said to face Justice Department inquiry over sex with an underage girl. Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, and a close ally of former President Donald J. Trump, is being investigated by the Justice Department over whether he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for her to travel with him, according to 3 people briefed on the matter. Investigators are examining whether Gaetz violated federal sex trafficking laws. A variety of federal statutes make it illegal to induce somebody under 18 to travel over state lines to engage in sex in exchange for money or something of value. The Justice Department regularly prosecutes such cases, and offenders often receive severe sentences. Now, before we dive much deeper into this story, I am going to preface all of this with the following statement. I have no firsthand or secondhand knowledge as to whether or not Matt Gaetz was engaging in sex with underage girls or trafficking them across state lines. I am merely going to be reading things off of paper and playing you pieces of video so that you can decide for yourself whether you believe Matt Gaetz trafficked underage girls across state lines to have sex with them. It was not clear how Mr. Gaetz met the girl, believed to be 17 at the time of the encounters about 2 years ago, that investigators are scrutinizing. The investigation was opened in the final months of the Trump administration under Attorney General William P. Barr. Given Mr. Gaetz' national profile, senior Justice Department officials in Washington, including some appointed by Mr. Trump, were notified of the investigation. Hey, if you're starting to get that nauseous feeling in the bottom of your stomach, hold on, because that shit's about to start going up. The examination of Mr. Gaetz, 38, is part of a broader investigation into a political ally of his, a local official in Florida named Joel Greenberg, who was indicted last summer on an array of charges, including sex trafficking of a child and financially supporting people in exchange for sex, at least one of whom was an underage girl. Mr. Greenberg, who has since resigned his post as tax collector in Seminole County, north of Orlando, visited the White House with Mr. Gaetz in 2019, according to a photograph that he posted on Twitter. Looks like Mr. Gaetz needs to get better friends. So far, no charges have been brought against Mr. Gaetz, and the extent of his criminal exposure is unclear. Mr. Gaetz said in an interview that his lawyers had been in touch with the Justice Department and that they were told he was the subject, not the target, of an investigation. Quote, "I only know that it has to do with women," Mr. Gaetz said. "I have a suspicion that someone's trying to recategorize my generosity towards ex-girlfriends as something more untoward." I'm sorry, Matt, you're 38 years old. Are you saying you have 17-year-old ex-girlfriends that you fly around the country to come hang out with you while you're at Trump rallies? Because I don't know that that's the best defense. So after those two articles bounced around for a few hours, Mr. Gaetz decided that he needed to jump even more vociferously to his own defense, which of course means he went onto Twitter. Over the past several weeks, my family and I have been victims of an organized criminal extortion involving a former DOJ official seeking $25 million while threatening to smear my name. We've been cooperating with federal authorities in this matter. What? Really? Well, surely if you're going to make a claim like this, you have so much to back it up, you're done. You can just drop the mic and walk away. Yeah, you got any questions, call my lawyer. That would be the standard response. Matt Gaetz's response? Go on live with Tucker Carlson 3 hours later to make sure everybody heard your first two denials of the accusation.
It is a horrible allegation, and it is a lie. The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that that is not the case.
He described the potential victim from the previous article as a 17-year-old woman. Hey, Matt, if you are a 38-year-old man, you don't refer to any 17-year-old girl as a woman. You're more than a generation older than her. You are, quite literally, old enough to be her father. Stop being fucking gross.
What is happening is an extortion of me and my family involving a former Department of Justice official. On March 16th, my father got a text message demanding a meeting wherein a person demanded $25 million in exchange for making horrible sex trafficking allegations against me go away.
Yeah, you see, if you don't leave $25 million in small unmarked bills in the trash can outside your house tomorrow, I'm going to tell everybody you're a pedo. That seems likely.
Our family was so troubled by that, we went to the local FBI. And the FBI and the Department of Justice were so concerned about this attempted extortion of a member of Congress that they asked my dad to wear a wire, which he did with the former Department of Justice official. Tonight, I am demanding that the Department of Justice and the FBI release the audio recordings that were made under their supervision and at their direction, which will prove my innocence.
So after that tremendously bad opening, Matt decided to pivot to, who amongst us has never been accused of sexual misconduct with a minor? I'm not joking.
And I believe we are in an era of our politics now, Tucker, where people are smeared to try to take them out of the conversation. I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act. You were accused of something that you did not do, and so you know what this feels like.
For the record, Matt Gaetz just tried to all lives matter Tucker, and Tucker was like, I don't know you. Nope, And if that wasn't weird enough for you, well, don't worry. There's still something left for those of you here questing for more.
I do believe that there are people at the Department of Justice who are trying to smear me, providing for flights and hotel rooms for people that you're dating who are of legal age is not a crime.
For the record, providing flights, if they're 17 and they live in another state and you fly them out to whatever fucking state you're in where they're having a Trump rally, that's sex trafficking. Then again, you probably don't know what constitutes legal sex trafficking since you're the only member of Congress who voted against making it an easier crime to prosecute. And then, because he hasn't said enough yet, Matt Gaetz decides to tell everybody a whole bunch of shit that hasn't appeared in any article anywhere. I.e., snitching on yourself, bro.
Again, I really saw this as a deeply troubling challenge for my family on March 16th when people were, talking about a minor and that there were pictures of me with child prostitutes. That's obviously false. There will be no such pictures because no such thing happened.
I actually never thought I would utter these words in the entirety of my existence on planet Earth, but I'm going to, so get ready to hit the record button, people, because it's never going to happen again. Right now, in that moment, Tucker Carlson is all of us. Now, blessedly, at some point, some poor script intern came over and pulled Matt Gaetz away from a fucking microphone, and they went to commercial, and Tucker got a moment to collect himself and think about what the hell just happened. Well, this is what Tucker came back with.
If you just saw our Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted. That story just appeared in the news a couple of hours ago. And on the certainty that there's always more than you read in the newspaper, we immediately called Matt Gaetz and asked him to come on and tell us more, which, as you saw, he did. I don't think that clarified much, but it certainly showed this is a deeply interesting story, and we'll be following it. Don't quite understand it, but we'll bring you more when we find out.
So yeah, all of that actually happened. Now, let me fill in a few blanks for you. Ex-DOJ official accused of extorting Representative Matt Gaetz denies allegations. Hey, wow, that's really weird. If you put somebody on blast on national television, they actually give a response to the media when you're, I don't know, possibly slandering them or defaming them or whatever hell the legal word is for saying that somebody tried to take $25 million from your dad so that they wouldn't tell people you're a pedo. Yeah, let's see what that looked like. The former Department of Justice official accused of trying to extort $25 million from Representative Matt Gaetz slammed the allegations as a, quote, blatant attempt to distract from the federal sex trafficking probe that's underway. David McGee, a former federal prosecutor in Florida who is now working at the firm Beggs & Lane, denied blackmailing Gaetz, who is under investigation for his alleged sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl. Quote, "It's completely false," McGee told the Washington Post. "It's a blatant attempt to distract from the fact that he's under investigation for sex trafficking of minors." Quote, "If there's a tape, play the tape," McGee said. "There's nothing on that tape that's untoward. It's a pleasant conversation of a dad concerned about his son and the trouble his son was in." McGee told the Washington Post that Gaetz' father had called me and asked to talk to me, but did not elaborate on the conversation. Wait, Gaetz' dad called McGee, not the other way around? Because if that's what happened, I would doubt that Matt Gaetz' father called another dude to ask that dude to extort him, and that very easily obtained phone records would show who called who first. So this is going to turn into a giant game of chicken stretched on top of a giant game of bullshit. Now, I am not going to go out of my way to explain to you that Matt Gaetz just might actually be a contemptible human being with absolutely no moral code to speak of. It wouldn't be my place to say such things. Nor would I point out that Matt Gaetz has been walking the razor's edge between dragging people down in the public eye and setting himself up to get dragged down in the public eye. And I am most assuredly not going to repeat to you once again that Matt Gaetz was the only seated member of Congress to vote no on an anti-human trafficking bill. Why? Because I think that would sort of bias your opinion of him, and I don't want to be the kind of guy who would cause you to feel biased against Matt Gaetz. It's not like the guy has made a whole bunch of questionable moral decisions throughout his short career in politics. Rather, what I am going to point out to you is this. Regardless of how hard he works to prove himself innocent in the court of public opinion, this one is actually going to end up in court. The legal kind. The one where you can't scream fake news or alternative facts or it's just political. The only thing that's going to matter is how much evidence is stacked against Matt Gaetz. Looks like we're going to find out sooner rather than later. Until next time, my name is James. I am from the internet and I am out. Peace.